saw last week the class action lawsuit that's now being filed against the NHL by retired players, very similar to what the NFL has dealt with, where these players are alleging the NHL knew more than they let on about head trauma, the long-term effects of it. Also, prescription drug abuse, you can imagine, would be part of that as well. How difficult is this class action lawsuit and the subsequent allegations against the NHL? How difficult is that going to be for the league to overcome?
It could be a watershed moment. I don't know if it's so much a difficult thing to overcome, but it could set the standard and the bar for the way these things are handled in the future. Nowadays, if a player suffers a head blow, he is forced to go to, the quiet room where he's evaluated. Years ago, a player would say, "Oh, I just got dinged up a little bit," go back to the bench and shake it off. And there, you could literally see, there was a player years ago, Jerry Butler, who played in New York, who was hit into the boards, and you literally see the guys on the bench telling him to shake out his head like this. I mean, that's not exactly injury prevention when you're talking about concussions. This is a time when the NHL may be forced to act, and in the same way, and I hate to use this analogy, it's a lousy analogy to use, but for years there were no nets in the back of in NHL buildings, and people were saying, well, gee, what happens if something terrible takes place? Maybe that's when they'll put up nets. And unfortunately, there was a teenage girl in Columbus who was hit and killed by a puck that went into the stands immediately after the NHL acted. A lawsuit, the threat of something that could be financially damaging to the league, is the sort of thing that could get them to act. And maybe this is the demarcation point where, going forward, there's enough consultation with the doctors to say, okay, these are the standards, these are the protocols that will stay in place for years.